Hey creators, welcome back to the club. We're your hosts. I'm Ebony Chapman.
And I'm Akila Friend.
And you guys, today we are joined by producer of Specials, podcast, and Oprah's Conversations at the Oprah Winfrey Network, and an executive producer at The Same Room, where they are breaking the mold of religion by intersecting faith in culture. Like, wow, faith in culture and how all that works. Listen, we are interjecting all of that. So you guys, please, let's welcome Fatima Elswify to the club. I am so happy to have her. Fatima, welcome.
You guys,
I'm so happy to have her. She is my friend. She's also an ex-coworker. We used to work together at the Oprah Winfrey Network. She was like one of the girls. Yeah, period. New girl. We love new friends over here at the Black Creators Club. Fatima and I would like literally we would always be the early birds in the office. It'd be me, her, and my other girl, Nicole, and it would just be the three of us every morning. And we were supposed to be starting morning devotionals, but then pandemic. We're going to blame the pandemic.
But you know, I'm here.
We're here, so I'm so excited to get conversation. We have something so exciting to talk about today, so
let's get
take it away.
into it. Okay, we talked about so much that, Fatima, that you do, that you will continue to do in this industry, but I feel like the first thing, let's talk about The Same Room, all right? For those who don't really know, this is, how about you say it? Actually, what's The Same Room all about? And then we'll jump into some of the topics.
Okay, so The Same Room is a show. It's a show and podcast. You can find it on YouTube.
Yes.
And it started, I think it started in 2017, and it was an idea brought on by the creator of The Shade Room, Angelica Wadu, and also Stephanie Ike, who's a pastor at One Church.
I love One Church, by the way.
Yeah, they threw me into the mix.
I do attend. Yes, and now they have the virtual sessions.
Yes, virtual sessions.
Yeah. She do be playing it. I do it. Every time she's over there on Sunday, I'm like,
she'll have it in the background while she's doing the thing. I'll be like, yes, let's pray on a Sunday.
I'm here for it.
Amen.
Right? But yes, so you do this, and I think it's incredible, but also the fact is that there are a lot of major topics that I think not only affect the Black community, affect communities at large that are interested in faith and culture and societal topics. But I think the fact that you're a producer, sometimes we don't hear your take on things, right? You don't hear behind the scenes. Like the fact that you are part of crafting the overall story. So today, here, we're recreating The Same Room in our own way. The Black Creators Club way.
Right. The only way we know how to do it.
Exactly. Right? And just asking you some of the top topics that we found interesting and want to hear your take on it.
Ooh,
okay. So the first one, recently you guys may have seen Chance the Rapper was one of your interviewees on The Same Room. And he talked a lot about, I think intentionality, about relationships, about obviously the faith that can be involved in picking a wife, per se. And so one of his major things was like how to pick a wife. He said, if you're Black, if you love children, and I think one other thing, but pretty much.
And you love God.
Uh-huh. Okay, The Same Room. God at the center. Black, love God, and love children. You find someone who's Black, loves God, and wants children, just go with it. All the other things can be put into place because there's no perfect person.
Yes.
From your perspective, is that all it takes? Black, God, and child?
Right. That's very simple. It's very simplified.
He simplified it, and I felt like it was so perfect because we have a lot of women on the show, and I'm like, that is how a man would break it down. But
we be complicated. We be
adding a lot. But I appreciated the simplicity of that because when we hear about relationships, it's like, did he go to therapy? Does he do this? Does he make this much money? I think the way he simplified it for this generation is necessary because we be doing the most.
I agree with you. I think we have we'll go into it with a long list of things that we want, and I know we hear a lot of the Kevin Samuel stuff and that type of thing.
I can't even.
No. Are we bringing that to The Same Room?
I don't know. I don't know if we're going there today.
No.
But it's true. You'll say oh, I want, he has to make X amount of money. He has to have this type of job. Mm-hmm. He can't, be
gotta be
Simone.
6 feet tall.
He can't be working at 9 to 5.
Right.
There's so many different things we put on it, and then when they're not meeting our expectations, maybe you might find that guy, but then who knows what else he's doing or what else he has going on or
that don't quite meet your list. And I would be fake to say that I didn't have a list.
I was about to say because you have a pastor. I forget his name. I think he's in Oklahoma. who was like, rip up the list. And I swear to you, when I heard this, I first sent it to my friends. We all were talking about it, and then we were like, yeah, we're not ripping up the list. Thank you. We're not ripping up the list.
But it's crazy. Right. It's like now that I am engaged.
Yes! My engaged friend.
I will say, Matthew, I love you. And he does hit a lot of things on the list, but I will say my list got in the way of a lot of like our process, because I'm like, I was so married to an idea, not a person. Like an idea of a person. It's like,
on that.
I come with stuff.
Right.
I come with a little bit of
What was on your list? What was some of the things that were on your list before we
he
say?
did.
Because I'm about to say this. And then we're going to check off one by one.
Loves God.
Loves God.
Black.
Okay. Black.
Yeah. So like Chance's point, and wants children. So he definitely has that. Tall, thank God. Jesus. Lord looks up.
Little extra sprinkle.
You know, good looking, all that, has like his things together, but even the way maybe he goes about how he loves God, the way he lives out all his things didn't quite match up to what I thought was the way. And so it got in the way. It got in the way of our relationship, our dating phase. I'm like, but this list says this, and this isn't quite right. And I think there's a surrender in it. So to Mike Todd's point, to Chance's point, I think that if you really trust God, you can let go of some things and let God let both of you evolve. Because we're going to evolve. We're going to change. But if you have non-negotiables, those are like some good ones. So.
Listen, Fatima talks, okay? Check out her
series
on YouTube.
I got you, girl.
Love the early plug. But I think that's so true, because I think like in my dating phase too, like I came with someone else I recently dated. Like I came with this idea of what I wanted, my expectation. Like I want compliments. I want this. I want to go out. I want to do this. And it was like, you're not meeting any of my expectations. So now it's like I have a problem. So instead of being open to the person and letting that person show me who they were and accepting and see if I could accept how that person is, how it is with no like negotiables.
It doesn't have to be an automatic acceptance.
It doesn't. Right? But it's like, can I live and mesh with this person like without my mind getting in the way of everything? Right. And it's like, I recently realized, dang, like I was really like, I put extra expectations on this person that wasn't necessary. It got in the way of us like becoming
connected.
I feel that too. But then on the flip side, I'm kind of thinking too, like I was talking to one of my like best guy friends yesterday, and we were talking about the ideas that men just are not simpler, but they just have a different idea of what it takes for them to have a woman on their arm and what kind of woman that person has to be. I feel like Black, loves God, wants children. It's very much for them, but can that be the same from a woman's perspective? Because as women, we are looking for that level of, or majority of folks are looking for that level of security. At least I'll speak for myself. How about
yeah.
Looking for that level of security, that level of protection, that level of et cetera, that would allow me to rest in my feminine energy. And oftentimes that comes with, what's your job? How much do you make? Can you provide in that sense? And I think a man wouldn't be looking for that from a woman because they want to do that themselves, and they don't need that.
But
what
I
can
can
has something to do with like Black women though? Like, do you think that has something to do with like our community and like how we're raised?
I don't, because oftentimes you see even like, you know, from a extrapolated point of view, when we're talking about the gold diggers or the white women that might be on these basketball players, it's the same level of security and whatever that they're looking for.
Right,
but
like that's a universal thing.
Right, I think
like
it's
that
universal.
Women want that, but you know what I can appreciate is us as women finally admitting that.
Yeah.
Like I think for a long time, like even as Black women, it's like
shameful.
Independent Black women.
Yeah, you want to do it yourself.
The narrative is cool and it's inspiring, but it's also not completely honest. And I think that men do want to be men. And I think you're right. Not all men. That's true. I ain't gonna knock that, because it's Chance stepped up to the plate in that way. He's that provider, like man. So we might have more on our list.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's okay to have more on the list.
I think it's okay. And I think that today's society, I think more women are admitting they want to rest in their feminine energy, want to rest in the fact that they want to be fully woman with
a lot of men honestly don't care, at least what he was saying. My friend was like, yo, I don't care what a girl makes or what, I'm not checking for that in the same way that women would be checking for that for me. And I think that's why you see this, and this is again an exaggeration of like, let's say the man who's quote unquote made it, and they're dating, let's say, a flight attendant or a teacher. Not downplaying those careers, but it's not something where it's like, oh my gosh,
super lucrative,
right? Super lucrative. So it's because they don't care as much about that.
They don't care much about. I think they care more about how, like you said, like resting on that feminine energy, having a woman that wants to take care of them, that wants to be there for them, that wants to, take care of the kids and like that.
Right.
I think they kind of value more than they like to admit, like that traditional kind of woman
Right,
style.
more than they like to
And
admit,
I think that in the Black women, like in our community of dating, because it's slim pickings out there and it's hard to find your man with the ring and the whole thing. It's hard. But I mean, Fatima waited a minute to find that special connection for herself, and so it takes, sometimes it
and
does
I gave
take
up
patience.
dating. I did give up, like,
let's talk about that.
Yeah, I gave up dating for like years, realizing like I need healing, and I still need healing. Shoot, I'm not even gonna act like I'm all there, but I realized like I lacked intention. I loved attention. Ooh, that went together. I lacked intention, but I loved attention. So I was
I feel that. I heard you.
So I was going on these dates. So I'm like, what am I doing?
What am I doing?
I'm wasting your time, wasting my time.
Not
And now I'm like
interested.
confusing myself about what I want. And I think God like put me on pause to be like, get cool enough with yourself and me, where you're not like thirsty out here. You're really like content. And then when I started dating, it was more like dated for marriage. I didn't date for anything else. And I was cool with that. I had guy friends. I had friends. I was fulfilled. So when I was dating, it was more like, I'm ready for this versus I just want attention.
That makes sense.
And I think that's like, it's so great to hear you say that, because I feel like that's where I'm at now too, where it's like, I think why I could never, because there was a point where I was like, listen, I love a good roster, all this stuff, but right now I'm at the stage where I'm just like, I don't want that. It's more like, where can I devote my time? Where is that time really being reciprocated? And do I want to spend that extra moments that I have that I could be doing this or that with someone who I don't see a future with? So yeah, that's valid.
Because you gotta leave room. Like,
you gotta leave room
you
for
gotta
God,
right?
You gotta
make room. For
Yes.
you want that? You can't be occupying with just a random.
Right. Honestly, I think that's so true. And I think that also leads us into the next topic that you guys had on the same room with Jeannie Mai, who also has been very open on the real and the kind of projects that she takes on, that she's very into God. She's, very spiritual and that type of thing. So she was saying, I think her episode was a little bit more on like self-love, self-reflection. And something that she said similarly was kind of like, if you stay in a relationship you don't want to be in,
it's like the longer you stay in a
relationship.
relationship.
The longer. Okay, yeah. So wait, let me read these notes right, girl. Let me read this note.
The intention is there.
Okay, the longer you stay in a relationship that's not for you, it's typically the reflection of the healing that you still need to do. And I was like, wow, like that hit me, because I was like, yo, I feel like I'm at a stage where I'm like, okay, this is not working out, and I know from jump, like,
we talked about that.
Yes,
women have those instincts.
The instinct is so strong, like, yo, I don't see a future with this person, but I'm like, maybe it's fine, and like, I'll just continue.
Or maybe I'm being too judgmental, too picky.
We make excuses.
Right.
Because loneliness is a real thing too. It's
sure.
like, would I rather like the days of the roster and things like that? It's like, can I live with this empty roster? Can I live with just nothing going
right,
on?
Bone dry, not going on dates. Ooh.
Especially in the like, I can't relate. Like in the pandemic, I can't even imagine. Like, sorry.
Rewind.
It is. I'm hearing stories. It is dry.
I'm hearing stories.
Listen, my pandemic life was very fruitful.
Right.
I was fine.
Ain't no problems. But now that we're kind of out, I mean, there's still a pandemic, but now that we're kind of out of it,
we're back in the streets.
It's like, dang, are the streets empty or not? Like, I don't really know.
You don't know
what's going on.
No, the streets are, girl, it's ghost town out there for real. There's nothing out there. It's really nothing. You gotta
The Walking Dead out here. But it's true. But I think it's such a good point though what Jeannie was saying, because I feel that's real. Like, you kind of stay. I don't know if it's like you said, it might be a combination. The loneliness thing, idea of like, do you trust yourself enough to know like it'll work out if to start over? Like, I think that's the biggest thing for me. It's like, I don't give myself to a lot of folks. And so when I'm like doing that with someone, I'm kind of like, dang, do I really want to do this again and potentially hope that there's some sort of like match here?
Because that occupies time.
Yes.
Even like
energy.
The breakup recovery time is a long time. It's like, do you really want to put yourself through that?
Mm-hmm.
But I think she's right. It's like that's why her message was about self-love. And a lot of times as Christians, with this type of platform, we're all about selflessness. So the idea of self-love could be really complicated because it's like, wait, but...
Explain that.
But,
that's interesting.
Yeah, okay. So the scripture, I'm going to break it down for you.
Break it down.
The scripture where it says, love God as you love yourself. I feel like that really is what people need to hold on to. Like, love others like you... Love God and love others, love God first and love others like you love yourself. People don't pay attention to the part about loving others like you love yourself. Like, pause on the fact, do you love yourself yet? Are you too busy trying to love others where you haven't learned how to love pouring from an empty cup? So I think that's when you a lot of us that don't have self-love, because I learned even through that episode, there are areas I don't love myself. We look like very confident people. So you won't even question your self-love because you're like, I'm confident, I'm fine.
I look into that am. Right.
Or in the grand scheme of things, it's like, listen, I'm doing more than fine.
Like, like you kind of know how to get through life and people perceive you that way. But it's like, are you putting yourself second? Are you harming yourself for the sake of helping someone else?
True.
And I think people stay in relationships where they don't realize they're putting themselves through harm. And self-love is saying, no, I'm choosing me, and this isn't, like, serving me. This is when I'm choosing someone I'm going to be with forever, there needs to be some level of, like, me getting served. I'm serving, and we don't like to admit that.
I think that's interesting. Because I feel like it's hard sometimes, like, when you're in a relationship, like, to question the value that you bring to the relationship, right? Like, sometimes sometimes I feel like people are like, yeah, like, I'm doing this for you, I do that for you, like, you being around me elevates you, like, that could be the type of person you are, or it could be, like, you fall into the space where, like, you being around them helps you out, you being around them elevates you, if they're in a different position, or they're giving you recommendations, or if they're, like, just looking out for you in a way that you're like, oh, you're not looking out for yourself in that same respect. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, sometimes you can be with someone who just automatically elevates you because of maybe the life's path that they're on.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It depends if that's what you want or feel like you're lacking for yourself. I think it goes back to that. Like, because if you feel like you can do that, not on your own, but if you feel like you can handle it, then that's probably not what you're looking at or judging a relationship from. Or on the flip side, it could be from something of the sense of like, hey, this person, compliments me more than I compliment myself. Like, or this person, offers me a lifestyle of financially or whatever else that I can't seem to happen for myself. So it could be a multiple of different things that you can't personally do for yourself. But I think that's true. And I think what might help, at least for me, now is when I'm looking at it from a forever standpoint. Because sometimes you can go in these situationships or whatever it might be, because it's not forever. You're probably willing to have this person just stay on your line or have access to you because you don't
realize how that's harming.
It's harming.
It's
harming.
Yeah,
it's taking your energy. Yeah,
and you could end up accidentally falling in love
doing
with
some
the
things
wrong
that will make
person.
it forever.
And then it's hard to get out of. Like, you saw the signs, but now you're attached to this thing that's not for you. And I think with an episode like that, like, the message is like, pay attention to, like, the harm you could be doing to yourself. And then also, like, even with what you just brought up, self-love is also unconditional love of yourself. Don't love yourself just because you got that job. Don't love yourself just because you lost 10 pounds. Like, can you love yourself with the additional 15-pound weight? Can you still love yourself?
Unemployed.
And I think that's what we want to focus on, because when it's based on these conditional things, you're going to always, like, judge yourself, judge others in the same capacity. You're not even building yourself up to love someone else unconditionally.
No.
I love that.
I think that's something
why I'm reading
that
books and doing things now to kind of
doing the work.
Doing the work.
work.
You got to do the work.
I think the pandemic has opened up a lot of folks to, the rise of folks quitting their jobs or losing their jobs, unfortunately, or different things is making folks a little less attached to those material things or those worldly.
Realize you can't control anything.
At the end of the day, like, what can you do? So,
yep.
Okay, honestly.
Speaking of things you do, right? Like, I feel like we could talk about these episodes all day, but we teed it up.
Yeah.
Yes, I love hearing your perspective, but like we teed it up saying that you are a producer in the entertainment space. Like, what is it that got you to this point? And just give us a brief overview of what that really means being a producer.
So for me, I went to Spelman and I studied. I love saying Spelman like that.
Oh, that's why you got the colors on.
Love it. I never saw this life for myself at all. I was an economics major. I really just thought business, corporate, climb the ladder, boss woman stuff. And God, similar to all these like topics, God took me on a whole nother path where really I lost control of my life, and he had me lay everything down. Like literally had me start over when I graduated and find out.
Can you explain? I was gonna say let's pause
if
there.
you
talk
want
about
to.
Okay.
Sometimes I go through my story quickly.
Right.
It's a long
story.
Right.
Yeah, no, we get it.
But so I had like this dream corporate job graduating Spelman. I was already like management level position, great salary. The hours were ridiculous, and I just found myself checking boxes of life. Graduated this school, got this job, and I never looked at, wait, who are you and what do you really want out of life? Who are you living for?
That's a hard reflection question.
It's a tough one because you don't realize after a while you might be living for accolades and for the approval of your parents or people like, wow, Fatima's doing this. But I'm like, God got me to a point where I was just not happy. I was working crazy hours. I hated the work I was doing. It was not anything I was passionate about. I was sexually harassed at the job. I felt like that was a huge lesson because I tried to we just don't be knowing. I was 21 years old, and I thought being cute and being funny was. Me Too movement didn't exist, so I didn't realize what could really happen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Sexually harassed on the job, which was a huge wake-up call for me just because I was just a naive little 21-year-old. Like, what's going on? And so it led me to quit my job. I was living in Atlanta at the time and had to move back with everything I just, despise.
Right.
Live back with your mom, start over, God was not opening any doors. Every door was closed. Every job I was trying to apply. Because God's like, you're just trying to jump right back into a corporate job. Find out who you are and what you want. So I went through this, it made me feel like a hippie, but it was really me and God for a couple of years. Him stripping me of everything. I was unemployed for a while, just getting little gigs here and there. And God was like, get rid of your old why. And he developed a new intention for me, which was to live for him, one, which I found to be way more fulfilling. So I was getting rid of stuff. And then two, find out you are creative. Yeah. You actually have a passion. You love talking, Tima talk. So
check it out on YouTube.
I love anytime she's like, okay, and it's on this channel, that channel.
Listen, you gotta put your girl on. It's period. That's what it is. That's what we're here for.
I love meaningful conversations like these, and I love sharing a lot of my testimony and breakthroughs and all that. And I was like, I want to develop content that leads people to what God led me to. And so I realized, I'm a content creator. I'm a producer. And
who better hard to actually say, though, at one point? Because, you can say you're creative, you can say you're this and that, but to really live that life as your full-time situation,
what was your
I feel like that's
producing job.
That's tough, right?
That is so tough. My first, I got all these random gigs that have nothing to do with what I'm doing now. I worked at DreamWorks, and I'm like, I don't care about cartoons. I don't care about no cartoons. This really ain't it. But it was still creative, so it still stimulates. So I would definitely advise anyone that's on the search, take the jobs that don't fully make sense just to learn what you like or what you don't like. Because even in that, I learned about development. I just started working the creative muscles, and I remember being so specific with myself. I want to work for Oprah. It's crazy to be, how can I get that job? That's true. But I'm
listen.
So not only, the testimony's crazy, but I always share this story how I walked in just for an informational interview because OWN had no jobs, and I was specific with them. I think I'd be an asset. This is, the department I want to work on. mind you, with very limited experience. And they were like, because I brought up God in the interview, and they're like, I don't know if it's your relationship with God or what, but 30 minutes before you walked in here, someone just quit in the very department.
Shut up.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Insane.
That is
insane.
So what department was it? The
It was technically development and production because I was assisting Tara. Little did I know that my boss was Oprah's executive producer.
Crazy.
Little did I know. I didn't even discover that till like a month in. Like, so you're like Oprah is
You're
like,
the actual producer.
and and I just feel like, God's big on humility too, like being willing to be a servant, start at the bottom, ask questions, all that. And I felt like that mentality kept me. Because entitlement mentality will have you feeling like, I'm too good for this.
Skip
like,
over opportunities.
I need to do this. But God is always trying to get us to have like a servant like type of heart. And I just remember the first time I was on set, like, giving Oprah it was just such a surreal moment, like giving her Kindle, like she had to do a little, and I'm like, I am giving Oprah her Kindle. I am on set, like I'm in this, and I just felt like I got the best training from the best, like the best interviewer of all time. Like, who better to learn to produce from than her team? And that all those skills translated right into the same room.
Love that.
So how long have you been at OWN?
I've been at OWN, which is so crazy. It's going on 6 years. Okay. Never, we're millennials, or what are y'all?
Millennials.
We just
okay. Okay. We don't say.
I mean, listen, I'll claim it if you want to put me in the Gen Z category.
We're not on TikTok,
we not there.
so we definitely not there.
They will kick us right on out.
I know you're such a baby. But we don't sit still.
I'm right on the cusp, so it's okay. I understand. It's fine.
She is
I'm right on the cusp.
You can actually claim both. Claim it.
I don't want to claim it. I don't want to claim it. All my friends are, so I don't want to claim it.
But we don't sit still.
No.
So to be somewhere that long just speaks to like when God has you somewhere and he wants to develop you. Who knows what's to come?
Space, right.
Yeah, the same room, I believe God's going to do some crazy stuff. So
I love that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's kind of like, because it's one thing, like you said, it sounds like you let it all go. In a way, you were also forced to. You know what I mean? Like your hand was
right.
That's the best way. It's hard to
officially
to really, because I was out here like, what's the next job?
Right.
But God was like, if you don't sit down, but the sit down, like I remember getting to a point, my mom thought I was tripping. She was just like, she was the one like, if you don't get a job,
you're like, Mom, but listen,
like, God has me on a path. Like you're gonna see it, and she'll be the first one to be like, I saw God move. Like every testimony you would have, she was like, in the front row seeing like God moves. Yeah. And I didn't have to be the one making things happen. Like God was like, this is for you, this is not for you.
Yes.
And
Amen.
I think it's hard to get to a place of alignment. I feel like we always dabble in and out of alignment, but God's just always trying to get us to let go.
I think the biggest thing, like the let go, another word that I associate with that is surrender.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so I think with that word surrender, when you surrender to God and like give it up to him, that's when you see the works of what's gonna happen.
You can take a back
you.
seat. I know that sounds weird because faith without works is dead. Like I still had to like do things and like be bold.
Right.
But what I mean is like there's moment of the risk taking, but a lot of times it really becomes easy. Like the path, like when you're in the right path, God's literally like, here, I'm gonna take you here, I'm gonna drive you over here.
Right.
And you show up as your best self.
Yes.
And before you know, it's like, this is what I care about and I'm passionate about. So it's so easy.
And then when you start like manifesting and start saying things out loud, and when you're in that same space, like I feel like things kind of take off. Like
the same room came not because I pursued it, but because people knew I was producing for Oprah and doing stuff. My best friend, called and she's like, hey, we want to do the show. I think you should be the producer of it and all that. And I had very limited experience when it first started, but I'm like, you know what? I took enough notes. I know how to do this.
I took enough notes.
I think that's most folks too. Like it's kind of like you don't know it until you're in it. So why not just
like even
go
what
for
you
it?
guys know. Like I'm sure at first it was like, what?
At first it was fun.
At first
it was just pure fun. Like it was just, we're on the thing, we're talking about the celebrities, we're doing the gossip, we're looking on the shade room. Like it was just that. And then as it progressed,
what are we
it's kind of like
really like to do
morphed into something more. But like if we look back, I personally feel like I'm like, dang, I did not see this
right
for what we're doing right now. And
I don't know.
Y'all, look at this cute merch.
The merch,
For the folks that are listening, theblackcreatorsclub.com/shop.
Well, I kind of want to go into a little bit more about like producing. So like we talked about topics and God and you know your hand and his hand in your life, right? And so I kind of want to go into like the more technical part of the producing part and kind of talk about the compare and contrast OWN and the same room, because I feel as though at OWN, which you know I know somewhat something over there, but you know you have a list of or a chain of command.
Yes.
So it's not like you're able to go in with some creative ideas. You can pitch them, but who knows if they could be on the cutting room floor. Like, how, I guess, is that process there versus it is at the same room, considering you're like executive producer and you have maybe you have a little bit more say, or, you know, people who are watching and want to be a producer or want to know kind of more about what that job title is and hands-on what you do, kind of what are those comparisons?
Yeah, I feel like the chain of command is real, no matter where you, like a network, whatever, like, there's so many rules you have to follow, like for TV, how many minutes, the breaks, all the guidelines, the kind of cameras you use, all that. And there's so many hands on deck specializing in certain things. So there are certain areas of production I didn't get to touch. I was already touching at the same room that I didn't even touch at OWN. So like pre-production is full of on a technical, like all the things, full of just, and you guys know, but full of research, really understanding who you're interviewing, what topics is going to differentiate this particular interview from things they've done in the past, like what do we want to hone in on. You have to be really aware of culture and like kind of like where people are and what people are seeking, especially since we do such inspirational type of content. And then
what kind of projects they're working on.
Yeah, like what, like really know, like you have to know what they're about. But the cool thing about working for Oprah, she's not just gonna be like, I got so and so in the room and I'm trying to promote their brand. She's gonna go into like the deep stuff. So that's kind of nice. We don't have to like you're promoting them just by getting into those deeper topics. And then when you're out on the field, there's such a chain of command. There's, you know, everyone has their position. For a long time, I was a PA. But that's kind of the best place to be when you want to observe everything, because you're running around, you're seeing what the EP does, you know.
Girl, I've never been a production assistant, but I don't think I would ever want to be a production assistant.
It's
now that I know what they do, I'm like, oh, thank God I skipped over that step. Oh my God.
It's so humbling. Like, I think it helps you to not be arrogant when God puts you in a position to be an EP and all that. Because, like, I was lifting printers. Like, I got a bad back. I'm a little mad about that. But it's like you're doing the grunt work.
Yes.
You're
running to get people's food.
You're like, getting their food. You're getting their coffee. And it's like, oh, I'm really good at coffee orders. But you're exercising all types of muscles. Yeah. And then, like, before you know it, you're sitting there with the DP and you're talking about creative things and you're seeing you're really just taking notes. And then you understand field production, and then post-production, that's when you're in the edit bay and you're learning that. It took me years to get to a point where I'm like, I'm in the edit bay. Like, I felt like that was, like, the last step of the whole thing. But I would say, like, comparing it for the same room, I think when you're so used to being a PA, you're so used to being, like, a servant, the transition to being a leader is difficult. Like, when guys like, it's your time, sometimes you don't know how to step into that. Because it's like, I'm just a humble servant.
Yes.
Like, how do I run things? And I think also getting that out of your mind. Run things. You're still a servant. You're serving the production, but just on a higher level. And I think that I felt like I didn't notice till after, but I'm sitting there, I'm going through the questions, I'm prepping Stephanie, I'm talking to the guests. And I think that's when I have the surreal moment, like,
I'm actually
doing exactly what Tara's EP does. Like, I mean, Tara, that EP, I shouldn't, yeah, that's her name. Y'all could Google her. But it's like, I'm doing what she does, and it's surreal, and you realize you're capable. Because I think a lot of times we have imposter syndrome. And we don't know. It's almost like we're waiting for someone to say, you're ready. Like, now's your time. And you have to kind of speak that into yourself. Like, I'm ready. I've seen this for years. But you do have a little bit of self-doubt of like, well, what does it mean to really be an EP? You don't know till you do.
Exactly. You don't know. The hardest part is like you don't know having. I think people validate or invalidate themselves if they don't have like the official title. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like,
yes.
I'm a singer, but it's like, where's your album at? Where's your, you know what I'm saying? Where you don't have
Where's
things.
your award? Where's your Grammy?
Where no one else validate.
No
like
one's
it's funny.
going to.
Like I have to. I keep Matt. You are in this interview. My fiance.
You better send this to him, and he better get all the views on that. Right? Send it to his friends. But your girl is bragging about you, Matt. Period.
I am, because he, like, even last night we were talking. He's like, I really need you to see your worth.
And
I'm like,
you need someone like that.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I see
Support.
my, you can even get offended. Like, I see my worth. He's like, but you don't. He's like, you're always waiting for these stamps of approval when you know what you've done. You know, he's like, you need to walk in that thing. And I'm like, dang, like, because corporate America kind of sets you up for that mentality too. It's like, I'm not seen, so I have a promotion.
That's
just now. I've been at home for 6 years. Like now, I'm leading meetings and all that, and I feel like it's so foreign that I'm like, no, like own this meeting. But I'm like, but everyone here knew me as an assistant. Like, no sense weird. And I have to like get out of that and be like, no. Hello, everyone. I am here. Okay,
Could you do that at the same room, right?
Yeah. Right. So I think. And I don't know, even being a Black woman that's been in a lot of
let's say about those underlying reasons,
right? The things you have to do, the different roles you have to play constantly. It's annoying. Like you kind of want to own who you are everywhere you go, but it's like hard to do that.
And the ageism of it all, I think, for me at least, it's
ageism
always been that.
Real.
Like it's definitely it's one thing to be the only Black in this one situation or whatever else, but for me, leading folks who I know, I was like, okay, you are a smooth 10 years older than me, if that, and I know you know it. And so it's kind of like, how do we demand that attention and maintain that, respect without then crossing the line of doing it too forcefully, you know what I mean?
Or folding into the, and I think
that's a really good point, you guys. I've literally never thought about that, but that's such a good point.
I think
and you can lead up to, like, even as you, like, there have been times I've been disrespected as an assistant where, like, another side of me really wanted to come out, but instead I used professionalism. I met with that particular leader. And I was like, I don't appreciate the way you speak to me around other people. And I know you've dealt with your fair share of things.
Yes, girl. You already know my story.
And you have to lead up. And those are ways that you demand respect.
Yeah. It's very hard, though, to
and
get to that place.
Respectful. Like, it's not like going out of character and like trying to demand it from a disrespectful place. It's because I'm a person that is worthy of this respect. I'm coming at you, woman to woman.
Right.
And ageism is so real. I have not mastered a lot of these things. I think I fold. Recently, I had like this pitch meeting with a big celebrity. I'm not gonna say who, but it was like, but I was a boss in that meeting.
Come on, boss.
And I was really proud. I was proud of myself because it's like, I know. Also, confidence comes from knowing what you're talking about. Exactly. I knew what I was talking about.
That's the biggest thing.
Why am I going to act any other way?
Right.
So
yeah, and they're coming to you for that reason, whether they want to admit it or not. Like there's a reason they have you.
They're
in
not
the
the producer.
Right.
They're not.
Sometimes our youth is our power. We know what the culture's talking about. So
that's it too.
Listen to me.
Okay. Listen to us. Hello.
Come on, Adele. So name some of the major projects that you can speak to, that you've worked on, that you're proud of. Lets you know.
That I can speak to?
Yes.
Okay. Like a big moment for me. Oh my gosh. I was in New York and I felt it just felt so good. But working on the Michelle Obama interview, I felt like it was
that would be a big one.
Inspiring as a Black woman. Just like it's weird. I really don't get that starstruck, but I felt like it just showed like one, inspirational, like being around Michelle Obama, Black women like that, but it showed me what rooms God is allowing me to be in.
Yes.
I think for me, that's why that was huge. But working for Oprah, I will say, big names just come with it. So we did Joe Biden way before, his presidency. We did recently Adele and Will Smith. We did the Meghan Markle was huge.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so
that was a big
one. And then for the same room, I just feel like God is opening doors. Like Chance is huge. Like his following is huge. Jeannie was big for us. And I just think, who knows what other content we're going to make. Because it's not just about celebrity.
Right.
Like, we're not just attached to that, but with celebrity does come viewership.
Right. And I think that helps. And it's also the story that's being told.
It's really the content that speaks to culture. Like, we're providing messaging that people need.
Yeah.
So, it's exciting.
That's awesome.
I also want to touch on, because I mean, projects out the wazoo, and I know we talked about like your story and how you got to being in this producer space, and I actually recently called you about this question. So this is for all of you people out there that are still working on your craft and trying to figure out like where your footing is. As a producer or as someone who's in a creative space, like let's talk about pricing. Right? Like pricing, I feel like is something that can be subjective. It can be very hard to, like, as a photographer, as a producer, as a host, like like you literally could pick any number out of the sky and then decide like, this is my price. This is what I'm charging you. Like there's not really like a set thing, you know, like when I was doing photography, people were like, go online and look at other people's price. I'm like, they're professional and like went to school for this and did all this stuff and they're charging like $2,000-$3,000. Like I cannot do that. Don't tell me that that's my price. So it's very hard. So anyways, I called you recently to ask you about like a production fee, a host fee. Like if someone asked me to do something, where do I start? Like I do have experience, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that it's like, it's not on the Oprah Winfrey network or, you know, it's not what people would quote unquote
syndicated,
call syndicated professional experience. So can you take us through the levels? Because obviously it's all dependent on things, but take us through the levels from beginner to like experienced. Where would you be pricing yourself as someone
That's
in the industry?
a great question because it is so subjective.
Yeah.
And I think that I think a great starting point is to find out what your desired rate. Like if you felt super confident, super experienced and all that, like what would you want to charge people? And I think that gives you a goal to what to build up to. Because a lot of times people might just know you at a low rate and then they think that that's you and you've lost sight of what you're aspiring for. So I think first find out like what's a good industry standard rate that I'm not there yet, but I want to charge people. So then that way you don't stay in the lower rates for long. I will say like if you still aren't confident about your experience level, all that, you might start a little lower.
Give us some numbers so that we can have some
range,
ideas. Like a range
it does depend.
Dang, y'all trying to get real specific.
Yes, girl. We want to know. We want to know. The people want to know. The people want to know, Fatima. Come on.
People. It's for the people.
It's so, okay, so this is what I'll say. Because I actually talked to a fellow producer. Also, get yourself a network of other producers.
Who also
because
do that
it's
same
so
thing.
important to find out what's normal from other people in your industry. Like I'm just going to tell a side story, but I always remember a coworker at a company I worked for was very explicit about how much she made. I'm like, I do exactly what you do, and you make that much? Wait, what? And she was like, women need to do this.
It's
a lot
true.
of times we keep our salaries silent, not knowing how other people are getting paid, and we think we're going to lose out if we share and all that. And I get that to a degree, but if you develop some level of trust amongst some coworkers, share that because you want to see other people. You know, you want to see what's normal. You want to put it all out there.
You don't want to be lowballed.
Because who are you really protecting? You're protecting the company from getting away with charging people lower rates. So I would definitely say get a community of fellow producers to show you what's industry standard. Now, because I am salary at OWN, I haven't lived in the freelance producer world. But I do know, I believe like industry standard for like weekly rate for like an experienced producer, I believe is like $2,500 to $3,000 a week.
Okay.
That's like an experienced producer.
Oh, and that's like doing it every day. So it's not like a random couple hour gigs or whatever else. It's
that's like you're like on that project. I would say 2,500. I just threw that in there. I think it's really like $2,000 to 2,500. I think that's the true.
And to like be more specific too, it's like when you're on a project, it's like you could be working on that project for 3 months. It could be like a 6 month.
Yeah, and you know how much you're putting in. So like you could kind of do your own math. If you're like, I'm only doing 2 days a week on this, like let's divide it. Okay, this is my daily. You know, you can have a daily rate, and it just depends on what it's requiring of you. Like if it's requiring travel, you add in all those extra things. Make sure you have an LLC, especially for freelance workers, because you want to, all those write-offs.
Write that off. Write that off.
And I'm preaching to myself because I have an LLC.
You gotta get the business of it all. Like you think, you creative, but you have that business hat too.
Yeah, it's so important because you realize it's very entrepreneurial when you start, just taking gigs and just taking project by project. So I would say you could always Google that, but find out from other producers, like what's the industry, because it always changes, like what's the industry standard right now? so that I know. And then if you feel like you're more of an AP, associate producer, not quite producer, find out what the industry standards for that, but don't lowball yourself. And don't get too comfortable hooking people up when you've really developed your craft.
Yes,
like I think that sometimes like
get the homie discount.
I love us,
Homie
but I think we all like sometimes we'll pay a white person so much more money and then try to get the hookup with our black counterparts. It's like why not pour into their black business, black creators club?
Period.
So I think it's paying attention to all those things. Yep.
Okay, so that's it for a producer. And I guess that would be the main point of reference that you have. So how were you able to find that producer circle? Because I think that's tough to do.
That is hard.
Yeah,
We've been trying to figure that out. We've been like, girl, you got somebody in that. You know this person. It's so hard to find
even though
friends.
We're in the industry in the main like spaces, but it's like
to find friends that are in
what you got to say about that.
I'll invite y'all. No, I'm just
I mean, invite us to don't get.
No.
Fatima is like the most popular girl in LA.
She
literally knows everybody.
Who am I sitting next to?
No, you have no idea. You have no idea. No, you can't. But I am so serious. I'll be like, Fatima, like, I met this person. She's like, what's his name? I might know him. I'm like,
and then
sometimes she
she's
does.
like,
I'm like, stop. She's like, I grew
think
up with this person, and actually they went to this high school. I'm like, ugh.
the benefits. You talk about alignment?
Fatima be knowing people.
But yeah, how to network with other producers. So it does help because working at a network, all that, you end up meeting with production companies, just meeting people.
Right.
I will say even my Spelman network is huge for some reason.
Y'all are big out here for
sure.
sure.
I don't know. Spelman and Morehouse, like working in entertainment is pretty big. And even like one of my best friends from freshman year roommate is a producer. So she invited me to the screening the other day. So that's more like coincidental. Yeah. But I feel like there's these like entertainment groups, networking mixers. There's this group called the Multicultural Group at CIA. I don't know if they still exist, but they would just invite me to screenings. So you go to screenings, you meet people. Yep. Just say yes.
That's true.
To the invite.
Stop it.
But it's hard. It's hard, but like, and it's weird. Like, I feel like now I'm reaping the benefit of being out. Like, I was out here. Like, early 20s.
That's the problem. You literally have to be outside.
Yeah,
and
like,
it's exhausting.
Dedicate yourself to the streets.
But then when you're... I'm actually so. Then when you're older, it's like you don't have to be out because those years of being out pay off. And it's like, dang, I still know that person from blah, blah, blah.
If y'all can see Fatima, if y'all could see Akila's face right now, seriously, she's so over it.
Because I'm literally, I think I'm at the age where I'm like, no, I don't want to be in the streets like that.
But how old are y'all? Do y'all mind?
No, of course. Yeah, no, I'm 29.
I'm 26.
Yeah. And how old are you?
I'm 31.
Okay, but when did you feel like, okay, this is my cutoff time for the street?
For the street?
But don't let Fatima feel you. She might have been in the streets, but she also be like, oh, my phone died. Oh,
yeah, it was still...
I didn't answer. I didn't see your text. Like,
but you know what's crazy? Like, because really my street time, I feel like...
When did the street lights turn on? What did you say it's time?
Okay, so I moved back here. I think I might have been like 22. So like, and I was like in the club. Those are like giving my whole life to Jesus days. I was out here.
Thursday to
Sunday. So those days even God, everything works out for your good. Right. So like the club promoters turn to produce. Like you don't know what people turn into.
That's
like,
true.
Even this. I'm not even gonna say his name because I don't even know if he wants that out there. But like this huge clothing designer, like that does big things, used to do Greystone. Well, now people are gonna know who he is. It's like you never know who people were. Right, so, anyways, seeing that is really cool. And then cool. So I would say I was out from like 22 to 25, just out and about. And then like I was always at church, and being at a church like one church that's like social in West Hollywood. A lot of those people were in the industry. So, like, I got fellow Christian friends that produce and do all that stuff. And, like, I wasn't going for that reason. So, I felt like my networking wasn't... I stopped calling it networking after a while because it's like, no, I'm just developing all these friendships. And now, oh, my gosh, you work here? What? You're doing this?
It just worked out that way. It's so crazy how that happens.
I had a social bug, though. Then.
Right.
And I thank God I had it then, because now I just want to be home.
Well, you got a man, girl. I feel it. I want to be home too. I like a man. I want to be home too.
Like that whole thing, but that's real. That's real. Okay, so what are? I mean, I feel like you've been sharing gems all episode, but if you had to boil it down to top 3 to 5, you don't have to name 5 if you don't have 5, but like major tips for someone who wants to be in this entertainment space from a creative lens, who didn't, let's say, go to school for it, but obviously worked for it. Like, what are some tips that you can share for folks who are starting early, who are getting into it in their mid to late 20s, like later in their career? Just any tips that you can share for someone who wants to pursue this space from a producing lens, or just generally from a entertainment creative lens.
Yeah, I have so many. Let's see if I got 5. No.
Yes.
I would say 1, don't be scared to start over. Because we're still young.
Yeah.
25, 30, 35. We're still young if you, God willing, when you think of life, because life is short in a lot of ways.
It can be, yeah.
It can be short. But if you think about like Ava DuVernay, when she says she picked up her first camera.
Literally.
At 30, like I started over with choosing entertainment at 25, and like I literally started from the bottom, started over.
Same timeline.
So I think that don't be scared to start over, because what you learn at the bottom will serve you. Like when you try to get in and fake it, it doesn't work. No. Like you're gonna just not know what you need to know. So don't be scared to start over. Also, find out what you're really interested in. Like specialize, even if you don't even know what you're talking about. If it's like, I love scripted television, or I love unscripted, or I love interviews, or I love music, or find out what that thing is, so then you're not like so scattered. I think and take your time with it. Like take your time finding out like what your interests are, because that'll serve you more, because once you know, it's like, ooh, like you're pouring into that one thing, and then you're gonna see more come out of it. And then I would say, kind of with starting over, like humility takes you really far. But then when it's time to step up, still be humble, but don't be scared.
Period.
Take risks.
Still
what
be
else?
humble, don't be scared.
I
think that is bomb. Like I'm about to. That's definitely about to be an infographic as soon as this episode drops.
She's on camera right now.
Listen, that is bomb. I do want to bring up a really, really exciting, cool space too, because we talked about like building a team, and building a team is so important when you're like a new business and like trying to figure it out. We're still on that path of like trying to figure out what the team looks like, because it's hard to be CEO, boss, founders, and then be in the weeds with everything. You can't grow that way. Like because you need someone else to handle that while you look at the bigger picture. So at the same room, I guess how have you guys been able to build your team, and for people to know that kind of like, have you been asked calling in favors, or like is it relationships, or is it just like, how were you able to get your core team to produce such amazing content?
Some of it really was divine. Like I will say, like me having a production background helped, just being part of the creating it. But then like this girl Brenda is a producer with a production background. She just wanted to be a part of it. And then even as you're building your team, don't look over the unexperienced people that are passionate. Sometimes those are the best people. A lot of times people that have all this experience are just trying to like chip away and like grow. That's beautiful, but it might serve them better in a corporate environment. I feel like a lot of the people on our team are passionate about the mission. Like they're truly people of God that want to spread the word. Like, you know what I mean? And they see the platform and see the value of it, and also want to learn. And some of, like, I'm going to shout out Caitlin. Love her so much. She reached out to me. Hey, Caitlin. She reached out to me on Instagram, and she just wrote me, like, I just felt God on it. And I'm like, she really wants to be a part of this. And, like, I didn't even respond to her right away. I'd be bad at responding.
You can get her better on Instagram than you can on text. It's fine, though.
And then later, like, when we realized we needed some people, I remembered that message, and I got back to her, and she didn't know much about production. And I'm going to share your testimony, Caitlin, too. And she just started, her heart was so willing, like, just like me. Like, when I was getting coffees and stuff, like, she was getting a snack. She was always showing up. And now her testimony is what she learned at the same room. She got a job from it. And like she's doing amazing and it's production work, but it took her heart and her willingness to serve us to get that. So I say find people, because you guys have a very specific mission. Like, you guys are promoting Black businesses. You guys, it's a very servant oriented. I don't know if you guys see it that way, but it's very service.
We serving.
Okay. It's so service oriented. Like, it's putting people on. Like, it's spreading people's stuff. So you can find young people that are like, I'm about, Black businesses. I'm about like us and like growing.
I think that's true, because we finally made that switch even when we were starting to look for a team, because at first we were like, okay, these are the things we need you to do and we want this and that, and then we were like, as we were starting to interview folks and recognizing, no, the Black Creators Club is about this and we want to promote this, kind of what you're saying. I feel like the conversation shifted.
The conversation did shift, because at first we were like, oh, people are going to want to get paid. We got to pay you a stipend. And then we realized, like, oh my God, we cannot afford this. Like, especially if we're trying to hire 3 people. We cannot afford to pay all these people consistently. And then it was like, wait a second. We literally have a database full of people that we interview on a daily basis that are in every single field you could possibly imagine. Like, we have the connection.
Extensive connection.
Yeah.
Like,
so network. It's like if anyone's looking for like a job or anything like that, like, we could connect someone with that. So then I was like, okay,
there's value in that.
That's when the conversation changed, because we were like, we can provide value. We
especially
just can't pay you.
Young people, like, think about someone young moving to LA, knows no one.
Right.
They could come, they could support, your brand, support what you're doing, learn, and then this is the thing, seeds turn into stuff. So like they're planting seeds into your vision. When y'all do get the money that's gonna come,
amen,
in Jesus' name,
amen.
Then you can pay those people, and that you'll remember them. Like that always it always pays off, even if you don't see it up front. So,
100%.
But a lot of people are short-sighted. And guess what? Don't hire those people.
Right, right. I do want to just make sure that we point out, again, you mentioned, obviously, you're still with OWN, but you're doing this with the same room. I think for other folks who may have their official, let's say, 9 to 5, but we might want to pursue something that might be the more creative outlet. Like, you happen to be doing something in both arenas. But how are you able to, finesse that in a sense? Like, how are you able to do both for kind of in a lot of ways that could be considered competing companies?
Yeah, so, hopefully I don't get in trouble. No, I think that because it really is truly a side hustle. As much as I want it to be full-time, it is after hours, it's weekends, and that's a sacrifice. Like, so as much, I encourage people to do it that are in the creative field, because a lot of stuff about working in creative, you don't get to be creative for a long time.
Right.
That you got to build to the point where your creative opinion is appreciated. You got to put in the hours and the grunt work. So I think if you're doing that at your 9 to 5, you need some place, just like you guys have this, some place to put that creative energy. Yeah. I feel like y'all can relate on every level.
Literally everything you're saying.
So like, and it honestly feeds me. So like times where a job could get frustrating, at least you have this thing fueling you. And I think jobs will get frustrated. That is just life. It's It's more demanding of you. Like where the same room I could take a break with.
You take a break.
You can't take a break with your 9 to 5. So it's kind of like, you need that little creative thing.
I want to just even go a little bit deeper with that, like, job frustrating thing is like, okay, for me, right? My testimony is Akila and I, we had a pre-chat. We do these pre-chats with people normally to kind of like talk to them. Who are you? Like, how can we create an episode that is going to make sense and, all the things.
All the things.
All the things, right? It's like, I don't want to just jump in. I don't know you. We don't know you. And then we're like, hi. Like, it's awkward. So we always do pre-chats for the most part. You didn't get one, but we know. I know you. I know you. We jumping in. It's fine. Good energy. And so it's crazy because it's like I'm low-key like founder, CEO of my own business, taking interviews, emailing, chats, the whole thing, and like running a full production. And then at work, I'm like somebody's assistant. And so for me, I'm like in this like two like double-sided world. And it's so hard sometimes to like appreciate the assistant space. So I guess what would be your advice for someone who's in that like dual space? And then how to like really appreciate what it is that they're learning, because I'm getting like tangible, cool. I'm at cool, I'm traveling. I'm at award shows. Like this shit's dope, right? And in my mind, and when I tell people, I'm like, oh, this shit's dope. But then when I'm there, I'm like, I don't feel like
seen.
excited, seen, or like anyone gives a crap, and I'm like, I'm trying to get to know my boss.
Like you want to be a key player.
Yes, it's like how do you become seen and key so that fuel can still continue to flow.
And I want to make sure that when you answer that, it's taken beyond, let's say, position level, right? Because you're saying assistant versus CEO, but I think I can relate on the same side. For me, like I'm purely business on what I'm doing. Yes, it's a high position, like, you know, in everything that I'm doing now, but it's very much.
I want to know what you do after this interview.
Oh yeah. I think that's how I tell the folks. I'm at HBO Max, like very much like.
Akila, say what it is. Say what it is. What is the official title? Don't do that. Don't do that.
Brands marketing lead for all of our, you know, original content, all type of stuff, like doing partnerships and promotions and shit like that. But it's very much, I don't touch the creative process or this at all. I'm more so, okay, now that you have something that you think people want to say, now that you have something that you think is cute, let me make sure that people actually like
know about it,
give a, you know, like really tap
like
in
it or see it or who's looking.
Exactly, but it's
like
so,
the Nielsen thing, you know, like
right. But it's so far removed from what I would say the same sort of thing. And at the end of the day, I'm still not. You know, it's really dealing with that power hierarchy and not the boss and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole nother level there. So yeah, I think from the same side.
Yeah, we have different perspectives,
but
just
No, that's a good question because I don't want to just limit it. You're right, because even when you're not assistant, you're a step up from assistant or you're a different role. You still might not be
it's
lead
that duality vibe.
or creative lead or anything like that. I would say from a spiritual standpoint, it's always good to be in a role that keeps you humble.
Yeah.
Because you got to be, because humility applies, like, I don't know why that ends up being my key. Maybe that's something God wants me to do.
That's true.
But it applies wherever you are in a marriage, which I'm growing to be. Like, I can't be this entitled wife. Like, do you know, like, I have to find humility in my role there, no matter what, because you're always a servant, no matter where you go. And I think when you're running something all day, that's where you meet some arrogant folks that, like, are like, do you know who I am? Do you know? And I get that too. Like, it's such a fine line of knowing your value and being arrogant, like all that. Because you could be a humble leader. Like, the best leaders, what do they say, are servant leaders.
Of course.
And I think that where you can probably, like, because you're running things on one side and then you're like really like not doing that on the other side, I would say find opportunities to be proactive and let your boss see what you're made of. So, like, if you, because you know your role sometimes, and I know when I am speaking to assistants, like scheduling, travel, like all these things, and it's like, I could do a whole pitch. I could do a whole, but so then it's like on your off time, it puts more work on your plate, but it's like on an off time during work, it's like you pitch an idea. And sometimes they'll sit in your boss's inbox, but they see like, there's more to this person.
Yeah.
And I think that's a way of like planting seeds, and they do come back. I'm telling you, like there's things I've pitched, there's things I've done. They're like, Fatima knows about that. So you want them to know what you want to find opportunities to show them like you're not just this.
Right.
And do it tactfully.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, didn't you say something about not being scared? I think that do something
scared.
without
Not
fear.
Scared. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, Keeks, what else should people not be scared about, girl?
Okay, not be scared to double tap, like, subscribe to the Black Creators Club. Okay, we really love doing this show, as you can see, and the best way you can repay us, share it with a friend, subscribe, definitely, like, you know, just tap in to the Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, YouTube. Everything is at the Black Creators Club. And also, if you want to be a guest, if you know someone who would be as dope as a guest as Fatima was this entire time, definitely reach out to us at theblackcreatorsclub@gmail.com.
And where can they buy the merch?
Oh, buy the merch at theblackcreatorsclub.com/shop.
I got me one.
Yes. That's going to be our new stipulation. You cannot step foot in the studio.
You got merch.
Honestly, y'all, this yellow, I got so many compliments on it. So
it's so cute. And it looks so cute on her. Okay, so we're going to do a cute little quick game. You know, we always like to play games with our guests. So, I'm nervous. I hope that you got this.
Explain the game.
I think you got it when I'm nervous. Okay, so we're going to name a few, like, log lines to some shows, some podcasts, some pop culture shows. Come on, producer. Literally, these things are so easy. If you don't get these,
stop. Don't.
I'm nervous. I'm very specific with what I watch. So,
I know.
We took that in mind.
Don't worry. We did. Okay. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So here her personal selection of her interviews with thought leaders, best-selling authors, spiritual luminaries. Okay. Yes. As well as health and wellness experts. What
That has to be Super Soul Sunday.
Yeah!
Which
I was nervous about that one.
I was okay. The way you were looking at me, I was like, uh-oh.
Like, what is going on?
So this one, a talk show and podcast that offers an insightful take on faith-based topics. The objective is to break the mold of religion by discussing faith in the context of today's culture.
Girl, I wrote that log down. The same room.
Period.
You love it. Okay. Offer celebrity and trending news on an hourly basis, predominantly within the African American community.
On an hourly basis? Oh, that has to be the Shade Room, right?
Shade
Room.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, hourly. You know, hourly.
It's on it. On
Baby
it.
on it.
Literally. Okay.
I'm trying to make sure she's not cheating.
Oh, right.
Make sure she's not cheating.
I'm on the way live.
Hold on.
This up real quick. One of the top networks discussing celebrity hot topics, news, gossip, and carries some of the top reality TV shows.
Is it E?
Yeah.
What?
How did
that
you
was
get
a tough
that?
one. That was a tough one.
I be watching E.
Fatima, I swear, I was like, oh my God, what does she watch? I have no idea. I'm like, okay. All right. Last one. Okay, you've been doing good so far. You got an A so far. Let's see what's going on.
See if
Okay.
she can do 5 out of 5.
Right. Okay, so she leads intimate conversations with today's foremost newsmakers, thought leaders, and masters of the craft, bringing the truth and perspective to a range of topics shaping our world. They reveal gripping stories of human connection.
Ooh, that's hard. Is it a podcast?
Yeah, I think
Is it
so. It's something you want to hint?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Wait, say it again.
Say the line again.
Yeah.
Okay, so she leads intimate discussions with today's foremost newsmakers, thought leaders, and masters of the craft, bringing truth and perspective to a range of topics shaping our world.
Red Table Talk.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a good one. It's not that. I should have put that one on there. It's not that one.
So
Is it Taraji's new show?
No. So it's within your realm of where you were.
You've definitely worked on this.
She brings.
Yeah, they
The
reveal
Oprah conversation?
Yes. Yeah, this one's a general one. Now that log line might have to be.
I'm like, that sounded
more
like my
specific.
girl.
Yes.
My girl.
I was thinking we might have to take a few things, bringing truth and perspective. I said, we need that. We need
But
that.
that was very Red Table Talk.
It does. Yeah, that was like
That was a good one.
That's a good
Okay,
one.
Fatima. That was a good
Yes.
one. Okay, you guys, we've enjoyed it. You enjoyed it, girl?
Loved it.
Fatima, how you feeling?
I feel good.
Okay, good.
I feel seen, heard, and valued.
Yeah. That is literally what we seen, heard, and value. We need to write that down.
She creating the log line right now.
That is what we aim to do here at the Black Creators Club. I am so excited that we had Fatima here to discuss all the topics: producing, God, finding your path, figuring it out, sticking with it. Like, oh my gosh, you guys! If you watch the episode, go back, watch it again. So good. I really appreciate you being here. So let's just start off with Fatima. Where can they find you on social media? Where can they get you, contact you, book you?
Oh, there's so much stuff for y'all to follow.
What's going on?
Okay, so Instagram is Fatima.Elswify. Y'all probably can put that up.
We'll put it up.
And then follow the Same Room's YouTube. So it's just the Same Room on YouTube. And then you can also follow on Instagram. And in the room, that's where you'll see me. It's a Same Room show. And I am one of the hosts.
Not
And Tima Talk. Damn, you doing a lot.
Yes.
So my YouTube is Tima Talk as well, which I'm going to start working on.
Listen, it's a
we
slow
get
build.
it. We get it.
We get it,
But you're
girl.
there.
You got it.
You got the @links.
Where you at, girl?
Okay, you can find me chatting media and life motivation, all with a dash of style, at Akila Friends.
Yes, and you guys can find me on Instagram at EbonyChapman12, talking everything Black-owned business and, of course, the Black Creators Club. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to always abide by your ABCs. Always be creating.